welcome to yet another edition of the Leadership Lecture Series. It is my pleasure today to welcome a very distinguished personality, Dr. Mukund Rajan. Dr. Mukund Rajan serves as a member of the Group Executive Council at Tata Sons Limited and is the Tata Brand Custodian and Group Spokesperson. Additionally, he serves as Chief Ethics Officer of the group and oversees all corporate social responsibility activities as Chairman of the Tata Global Sustainability Council. Dr. Rajan joined Tata through the Tata Administrative Services in January 1995. He was assigned to the office of the then Chairman of Tata Sons, Mr. Ratan Tata, in 1996, where he served for 12 years. In January 2008, Dr. Rajan was appointed Managing Director of Tata Teleservices in Maharashtra. He subsequently moved to Tata Capital in 2010, where in his last role, he was the head of private equity and advisory and managing partner of the advisory team of the Tata Opportunities Fund, a private equity fund sponsored by the company. Dr. Rajan has served on the boards of various Tata companies, including Tata Teleservices, Tata Communications, Rhodes Corporation, and PM Hotels. He was also the president of the Association of Unified Access Service Providers of India, one of the principal telecom industry associations in India. He currently serves as a non-executive director on the boards of Lakshmi Medicine Works and Tata SIA Airlines and is a member of the National Advisory Boards of ISEC India and Enactus. In 2007, the World Economic Forum honored Dr. Rajan as a young global leader. He was also part of the inaugural class of the CII-Aspen Institute India Leadership Initiative. Dr. Rajan graduated from the BTech program at the Indian Institute of Technology, Delhi in 1989. He received a Rhodes Scholarship to study at Oxford University, where he completed a Masters and Doctorate in International Relations. His doctoral dissertation, titled Global Environmental Politics, India and the North-South Politics of Global Environmental Issues, was published by the Oxford University Press in 1996. May I now welcome Dr. Rajan to begin the lecture.
Thank you very much for having me here. I am myself a product of the IIT system, so tremendous admiration for the kind of work, the quality of research, the quality of people that this room represents, and really it's an honor and privilege for me to be here today. I'm going to get through a slide presentation. Maybe the next 25-30 minutes, there are a few videos I've thrown in, which you might find interesting. And then at the end of that, very happy to take questions for the next 20 minutes, half hour. Great. So the current role that I handle at Tata Sons is a new role, which was created by our current chairman, Cyrus Mistry. It's a role described as the brand custodian. We've never had this role before. And this role encompasses really three critical activities. The first is the protection of the Tata brand, as the name brand custodian suggests. But also I serve as the Chief Ethics Officer of the Tata Group, and I also oversee CSR activities for Tatas. And as I will explain in the next few minutes, for Tatas, really, these have been the fundamental pillars on which the Tata brand has been built. The notion of giving back to society and of conducting a business operations in a very ethical manner. And for Mr. Mistry, it made eminent sense to combine these roles under one head, because he felt the Tata brand really has owed so much to these diverse pillars that they must all actually belong in one place together. So I think we are one of the more unusual corporates which has actually integrated these seemingly disparate roles. Our founder, Jamsetji Tata, whose 175th birth anniversary we in fact are celebrating through the course of this year, famously said, in a free enterprise, the community is not just another stakeholder in business, but is in fact the very purpose of its existence. And I think this profound statement is what really sums up all that the Tata brand has always stood for. Jamsetji, of course, pioneered India's industrialization. His vision for India's first steel plant at what used to be called Sakchi, which was then renamed as the city you all now know as Jamshedpur, was one part of that vision for industrialization. Equally, he conceptualized the hydroelectric power plants, the first in this part of the country, which even today are servicing Mumbai's energy needs. But his principal passion, particularly towards the end of his life, was to create an institute of education which would be second to none. And that is the institute which today you know as the Indian Institute of Science in Bangalore. He funded this institute with what was in those times the equivalent of perhaps half his personal wealth. Equally, in the workplace, he instituted a number of humanitarian practices, which were, for those times, certainly very much ahead of the times. He created creches and dispensaries at the Empress Textile Mills for his employees. He instituted pension, gratuity, and provident fund schemes. And his humanitarian vision was taken forward by his son, Dorab Tata, who then led the Tata Group, when Tata Steel and Tata Power were created. In 1912, Tata Steel became the first company to institute the 8-hour working day. This is something that became a law in India only in 1948. In 1915, Dorab Tata instituted free medical aid for employees. In 1920, leave with pay, maternity benefits. All of these are subjects which really became laws which the corporate world had to abide by 40, 50, 60 years later. In fact, creches for workers is still not something that the law necessarily insists on. Dorab Tata also had to live up to very high expectations from his father. In his will, Jamsetji Tata insisted that when the city of Jamshedpur was being planned, he said, and you can see the quote on the slide, "Be sure to lay wide streets planted with shady trees, every other of a quick-growing variety. Be sure that there is plenty of space for lawns and gardens. Reserve large areas for football, hockey, and parks. Earmark areas for Hindu temples, Mohammedan mosques, and Christian churches." A very inclusive vision, I think, of the kind of community you want to create around your industrial enterprises. And much of this description probably also reflects the campus that you have here at IIT Madras. But I think that was the nature of the vision that this man had. And even today, I think thanks to those words of wisdom, Jamshedpur probably has one of the highest quality of life indices in India. Now, with the demise of Jamsetji and subsequently his two sons, Dorab Tata and Ratan Tata, you saw the creation of what are today the largest private philanthropic trusts in India. They are called the Sir Dorabji Tata Trust and the Sir Ratan Tata Trust. Between them, they hold close to 2/3 of the equity of our investment holding company, Tata Sons. And these trusts are committed to supporting philanthropic activity. They give away whatever they receive in the course of the year for philanthropic causes. A former Tata chairman, J.R.D. Tata, once remarked about these trusts, and I quote, "The wealth gathered by Jamsetji Tata and his sons is held in trust for the people and used exclusively for their benefit. The cycle is thus complete. What came from the people has gone back to the people many times over." And of course, over the years, I think you're aware of the kind of institutions these trusts have been responsible for creating in the space of education, healthcare, art, and culture. I mentioned the Indian Institute of Science in Bangalore, the Tata Memorial Hospital in Mumbai, more recently the Tata Medical Center in Kolkata, the National Center for the Performing Arts, and many more. This commitment to giving back to society is something that we've also now embedded in the Tata Code of Conduct. This is the code that, in a sense, gives a voice to the Tata commitment to ethics in business conduct. And in Clause 10 on corporate citizenship, the Tata Code of Conduct binds Tata employees and Tata companies in the following manner, which you can see on the slide. It says a Tata company shall be committed to good corporate citizenship, not only in the compliance of relevant laws and regulations, but also by actively assisting in the improvement of quality of life of the people in the communities in which it operates. The company shall encourage volunteering by employees and collaboration with community groups. The company shall not treat these activities as optional but should strive to incorporate them as an integral part of its business plan. So the notion of giving back to society, which goes back to our founder, is now under the Tata Code of Conduct something that is not an option for companies. It is not something you do beyond business. It is something that has to be integrated into your business plans. It has to be budgeted for, and it has to be defended and explained to boards of Tata companies. The continuity in thinking from the time of our founder is also reflected in the group's mission. This is a mission that was re-articulated by our current chairman, Cyrus Mistry, just last year. And again, it commits us to improve the quality of life of the communities we serve globally through long-term stakeholder value creation based on leadership with trust. We have also set ourselves the ambitious goal that by 2025, 25% of the world's population will experience this Tata commitment to improving the quality of life of customers and communities. So you can see there is a consistency and an alignment in our code of conduct, in our mission statement, in our vision for the future, and all this is inherently linked with the unique ownership structure of the Tata Group and the philosophy of our founder, grounding business in the community, really anchoring the role of business in the community. And this, I think, instills a sense of higher purpose in all Tata managers about the work we do. There was a situation in 2008, which all of you will recall, the terrorist attacks in Mumbai. And this sense of higher purpose was vividly brought home, including to all of us in the Tata Group, by our colleagues in the Taj, which was one of the victims of the terror attacks. There's a rather moving video which I'd like to play for you for a couple of minutes. This is a TEDx talk given by Professor Rohit Deshpande from the Harvard Business School. And I think once you hear it, you'll understand what he is trying to say.
So picture what's happening inside that hotel. There are 500 guests who are registered at that hotel this night of 26th November. There are an additional 600 or so guests who are in various restaurants, attending various banquets and functions. There are about 600 or so staff members on duty that night. Young people, many of them very young, 20, 30-year-old. Some of them, the staff members had only been working for a few years at this hotel. Many of them fathers and mothers, the sole breadwinners in their families with children at home waiting for them. One of the things, we don't know a lot about the detail about what happened there, but one of the things we do know is that all 600 of these employees knew all the back routes. They knew the exits, they knew the entrances, they knew the hallways, the kitchen galleys. In other words, they knew how to get out and how to get out fast. All the research we have in psychology would tell us that the natural human instinct at a time of terror like this is to flee. So think about it, what you would do. So when I teach this case study at Harvard, I ask my students, I say, how many of these employees do you think fled, and how many of them do you think stayed? And they'll hazard guesses, and the maximum, they say, that would stay would be maybe a quarter, 150 or so. You know, but that's the maximum. Everybody who can run away will run away. Well, the truth of the matter is that nobody ran away. They all stayed. In fact, some of them not only stayed, they helped guests out and came back in to help more guests. It's an amazing story. So picture what's happening inside that hotel.
So I think it's really captured very evocatively there. And even all of us in the Tata Group can only marvel at the courage of our colleagues in the Taj, a number of whom, by the way, lost their lives. There are some very emotional stories people will tell about the chefs, for instance, who knew the back exit from the kitchens and helped a series of guests to get out. And because it was dark, the lights had been shut out, the chefs formed a human wall guiding the guests between to the exit. And then one of the terrorists from the 6th floor saw this group, this movement, people running away, and started shooting from there. And a number of the chefs in the Taj lost their lives as a result. But what explains that dedication, I think it is something that even we find hard to explain. But clearly there is this sense of higher purpose, this commitment to something that is beyond just working for a daily living and taking your salary home. And we've seen this spirit in many of the lifers in the Tata Group, including previous chairman, Mr. Tata, who spent over 50 years of his life with the Tata Group. People like the former chairman, vice chairman of Indian Hotels, Mr. Krishna Kumar, and others. So the sense that the work we do and the success we enjoy helps to make the world a better place, I think that really is the virtuous cycle you dream of creating in a corporate. And that's what then engenders trust in your brand as a corporate. And I think we in Tata have been tremendously fortunate that that has worked for us. And the Tata brand today is really India's strongest corporate brand. Brand Finance, which is an independent third party based out of London, which does brand valuations, has valued the Tata brand at over $21 billion and places Tata as the only Indian brand in the world's top 50 global brands. Now, a lot of this brand value has supported our growth into markets far distant from the home country, India, where we started. So from an $18 billion group around a decade back, we've now grown into a group which clocks in turnover of over $100 billion. We employ 600,000 people, and we operate in over 100 countries. And we believe that the time is now right for us to invest in explaining the Tata brand in markets outside India, all the global markets that we operate in. But we want to ensure that those markets associate the Tata brand with the same values with which that brand has become so strong in India. So we are embarking upon a global brand campaign shortly, which will be a first for the Tata Group. We've never done a brand campaign before, and it will be a first in our 146-year history. And it will focus really on communicating the values that the Tata Group stands for. We've adopted 3 brand messaging corridors. Tata is global, Tata is trustworthy, and Tata is a good corporate citizen. These brand messaging corridors in some ways also reflect the same thematic that you will see many Tata companies individually also focusing on. And I think all this is part and parcel of being part of that group and being part of that brand Tata, which carries a tremendous authenticity to it. So I thought I'd show you a few vignettes of some of the campaigns our group companies have run. And when you look at these, you'll see the resonance with similar propositions. Look out for themes of nation building, social inclusion, women's empowerment, and doing good, all of which link back again to the fundamental proposition of our founder, which roots business in the community. So I'm going to open with a video which explains the Tata Global Beverages campaign, which they ran very successfully last year. This is part of the Jagore series. And this campaign was dedicated to what we call the power of 49. We said 49% of the electorate are women, and we felt that the time had come for an election campaign to focus significantly on women's issues. So you will see what they did in this campaign.
Unleashing the power of 100 million informed women voters. Not an easy task by any means. With deeply rooted attitudes and behavior, no ordinary TV commercial would have worked. Research has shown that soap affects the life of people and in turn impacts societies. Hence, for the first time ever on Indian television, we have brought the leading bahus of popular TV soaps in their real avatar to be the face of the campaign. These bahus will encourage women to voice their concerns, take these concerns to the political leaders and urge women to cast an informed vote.
हम औरतें हैं 49% वोटर्स।
हम सरकार बना सकते हैं, गिरा सकते हैं, यानी सिर्फ बहुमत। हम हैं बहुमत।
This campaign, which ran on television, leveraged the typical Bollywood film stars, the soap opera stars that are famous on different channels. We managed to get responses from 1.7 million women, which I understand is the largest ever aggregation of women's issues in any sample in India. And then we collated this and put it together as a manifesto for women, which was then sent to all the political parties. And on CNN, IBN, there were then interviews and discussions with each of the political parties run by Rajdeep Sardesai and his team. And the parties were required to commit what they would do on all of these issues. So I think it was a great example of cause-based marketing where you picked up a cause but integrated it with some of your company's own concerns and promotions. Similarly, Tata Steel, their campaign last year was about values stronger than steel. So again, you see the focus on values. The next one is a short vignette from Tata Chemicals, which talks about Desh Ka Namak, and this may be familiar to some of you.
Do you know someone who is making a difference to the nation? Share their story on deshkanamak.com.
So what we're finding is that by communicating these kinds of messages, there's also a social agenda, but equally it speaks to what people expect from our group. So while you're a corporate, there's still a lot that you can do to promote and support different kinds of social causes. So now I'm going to spend a few minutes talking about what we do in the CSR space particularly, where we're really trying to ensure that we sustain that fundamental connect with the community, which we keep talking about from the time of our founder onwards. Our current CSR spends between the Tata trusts and the Tata companies are in excess of around 1,000 crores plus every year across different initiatives. We have looked at our CSR initiatives and at the group center, while our individual companies, all 100 of them, do a lot of local activity, at the group center we are keen to create a more focused approach so that we're able to leverage the collective strength of the entire Tata group and create a much bigger impact. So I'll outline some of the key initiatives we undertake at the group level. These are focused around group CSR programs, disaster response, and volunteering. And in each of these initiatives, we also try and ensure that the target audience, as much as possible, are the most vulnerable elements of the communities we serve. So we're talking about the disabled, children, members of the scheduled castes and scheduled tribes, women, and so on. And volunteering, we try and ensure is a common strand across all our CSR efforts. As part of our group CSR programs, so GCPs, we try and identify a limited number of programs so that the focus, the resources behind that can be very high and the impact can be substantial. We use different filters to identify which these GCPs will be. These include the ability to leverage the competencies of our group companies, the competencies of the Tata trusts, and also the possibilities for volunteering by Tata executives. The first GCP that we have adopted is skills development. Now, this is a critical issue in India and, in fact, becoming a critical issue globally. In India alone, as all of you know, we're going to be adding over 100 million young people to the workforce in the next decade. And our experience in the Tata Group has been that many of these young people enter the job market with inadequate skills. So we are launching a program called Tata Strive, which is going to be a tripartite partnership between the Tata Group, central and state government through the ITIs, and non-profits that are engaged in skills development to really focus on this issue. Our hope is that by 2022, we'll be skilling close to 1 million people a year through our network. The second facet of CSR is disaster response. And again, another major priority for our group. Whenever there's been a national calamity, we've typically sent in relief supplies. We did the same thing in the wake of two of the largest calamities we've seen in this country in the past couple of years, in the states of Uttarakhand and Jammu and Kashmir. We also funded these relief programs with the largest contribution we've made in our history. And here we are trying to ensure that it's not just going in with emergency supplies and then getting out. It's then staying and helping the community to get back on its feet. So in Uttarakhand, we have a 3-year program that is still continuing, and the same thing is being implemented in Jammu and Kashmir as well. The final aspect of our commitment to sustainability is the focus on volunteering, which I had mentioned is also an underlying theme across all our CSR efforts. Before I get into the details, let me just share with you some of the reasons why we, along with many other corporates today, believe volunteering is actually becoming more and more critical for our workforce. Now, there are studies that suggest that in India, only 10% of the workforce is truly engaged at the workplace. Now, this despite the fact that 79% of business leaders rate retention and engagement as being critical for the corporates. In the case of millennials, many of you, an increasingly important demographic segment for all of us, 61% tell us that they would consider a company's commitment to the community when making a job decision, whether to join a corporate or not. But in even larger proportion, 75% believe that most corporates pay lip service to this and are much more focused on their own short-term financial goals rather than actually doing anything to help or improve society. Juxtaposed with these statistics, another data point would suggest that 90% of Fortune 500 HR managers say that volunteering is an effective way to develop leadership skills. So for a variety of reasons, there is a growing desire for companies to be more committed towards giving back to society, particularly through activities such as volunteering. Some of the benefits for communities would clearly include the access to skilled and talented volunteer resources, the positive social impact that this creates. For companies and employees themselves, I think a number of reasons why volunteering makes sense. Increases employee job satisfaction, morale, respect for the company, respect for the concept of service, supports employee loyalty, creates bonds between different departments in a corporate, stimulates team building, creates brand awareness certainly for the corporate, and really enhances the connect all around with the community. So at Tata, we've embedded all this logic in our volunteering program, which is termed Tata Engage. This was a program that we launched in memory of our founder on his 175th birth anniversary last year in March. It encompasses really 3 kinds of volunteering formats. We have a volunteering week, then a slightly longer term engagement called Pro Engage, and a very long term engagement called Engage Plus, each of which provides an opportunity of a different variety to our colleagues to engage in volunteering activities. We've also extended these volunteering possibilities not just to our employees, but also their families and also to retired Tata employees. We've had 2 editions so far of the Tata Volunteering Week. And in the process, we've grown the volunteering family in Tata to over 55,000 people. Some of the images on the slide, I think, give you a sense of the kinds of things people have done, everything from cleaning up beaches to book reading in the United States and various other forms of activity. These are the episodic activities that last typically through the course of 1 week. To support this entire volunteering initiative, we've put in place a comprehensive system from identifying the partners, and many of you indeed may wish to nominate or suggest partners for us going forward. We launched an online platform for engagement with our employees, then undertook extensive promotions of this campaign to the employee force, instituted group-wide recognition program, because people like to be told that somebody is acknowledging and saying that this is good, taking that feedback and incorporating that in amendments to the program. And I think the best part of this whole program that we launched last year is the fact that 99% of those who volunteered said that they would do this again. I think that was the best part. Many of them are doing it for the first time, but almost all of them said this made some kind of a difference to them in their life. They would want to come back and do it again. But we also recognize that this episodic thing is only going to fulfill part of your instinct to work with communities. And there will be a large number of our people who'd want to have a longer-term engagement. And that is captured through our program called ProEngage. Here we are putting emphasis on the specialized skills which our employees have. So for instance, some of our colleagues in TCS might work with pre-approved nonprofits on creating a hospital MIS software program. Maybe our colleagues in the marketing function companies will work with nonprofits to help them in their marketing and their fundraising programs. So this particular program was launched This was launched on the 5th of December, which is the International Volunteers Day. And in the first phase, there are over 100 projects which are of 3 to 6 month duration, which employees are undertaking on their personal time with nonprofits that have signed up for this program with us. So as I said, if many of you in this room have ideas and thoughts on nonprofits that need support and help of the kind I described, then this is something that could be looked at in the context of the ProEngage program. The final program that we run is called Engage Plus, and here we are giving Tata colleagues the opportunity to take time off on full pay for 6 months to 12 months on company secondment to pre-approved nonprofits. So under this program, for instance, we have colleagues who have taken time off from the regular work and gone to disaster-affected areas, are working in Uttarakhand, for instance, on the long-term rehabilitation programs that we have instituted. So to summarize, we have 3 formats of volunteering: the episodic volunteering weeks, the longer-term ProEngage program, and then the 6 to 12-month Engage Plus program. And we are finding this is really making a big difference to the way our own people feel about Tata as a brand and the role that they see Tata as having in the community. And I think the relevance of volunteering is perhaps best explained by our group chairman, Mr. Cyrus Mistry. I'll just play you a short video from him.
The volunteering program that's been launched would be critical to the experience of every Tata employee. I think the potential for us to add value to society by bringing managerial experience to problems and finding solutions would be immense. I believe the fulfillment that each employee will achieve will be even better.
So bottom line, I think what I've tried to do is to show that right from the time this corporate was created, from the vision of our founder to the manner in which the ownership structure has been set up, principally owned by charities, to the sense about the role of the corporate, what does the corporate really exist for? In our case, we believe we exist to improve the quality of life of communities and customers. I think that is now finding a culmination 360 degrees, right from the way we do our branding, to the marketing campaigns we conduct, to the products and services we offer, to the way in which our own employees are trying to give back their own personal time as volunteers back to society. So I'm going to stop here. In ending, I will just say this. I think as students and researchers at one of India's most prestigious educational institutions, and stakeholders, all of you, in the success of the corporate sector. I think your unique skill sets put all of you at a distinct advantage to really make your difference to the quality of life of communities, not just in India, but across the globe. So I wish all of you the very best in your individual journeys. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for that most insightful and informative talk. I now request Dean IAR, Professor Nagarajan, to present a memento to Dr. Mukund Rajan.